2,000 years, the Roman Catholic Church has had a lot of power, shaping Western civilization. The Pope, who leads the Church, is seen by over 1 billion Catholics as the successor of St. Peter. From the Vatican, 266 men have been Pope, each leaving their mark on history, some good and some very bad. Our countdown of the worst popes brings us to number 7, the Western Schism, with Pope Urban VI at its center. Elected in 1378, Urban VI became pope when the church was full of political problems. His controlling style and forceful changes quickly made many people upset, especially the French cardinals. The cardinals said his election was wrong and chose a different pope, Clement VII, creating a new papal court in Avignon. This started the Western Schism, a time of almost 40 years, with rival people claiming to be the pope. Urban's time as pope was full of violence and suspicion, making the division in the church worse. While the schism was eventually fixed, the damage from Urban VI's time as pope left a lasting impact. His story is a reminder of the dangers of too much power and division within the church. Number 6. Few events in history are as strange and scary as the Cadaver Synod, put on by Pope Stephen VI in the year 897. This horrible event stands out not just for how bold it was, but also for the scary look it gives us into how far people will go to show their power and get revenge. The Synod was called together for the single purpose of putting a dead man on trial, Stephen's predecessor, Pope Formosus. This wasn't just symbolic, it was a planned move to erase Formosus's legacy and make his decisions invalid. Formosus's body was dug up from its grave, dressed in full papal clothing, and disgustingly propped up on a throne as if he were still alive. The sight was both unreal and terrifying, a scary show that went against the holiness of death. Stephen led this morbid trial, yelling accusations at the lifeless body. A deacon was told to speak for the dead pope, answering the charges in a fake trial that seemed more like a dark joke than a real church proceeding. Not surprisingly, Formosus was found guilty. His time as pope was declared invalid, and in a final act of disrespect, his body was rudely thrown into the Tiber River. This act was meant to destroy his memory and erase his influence from the history of the church. The cruelty and craziness of the Cadaver Synod shocked all of Christendom. It was a scandal that shook the very base of the church, leaving believers and clergy alike wondering about the morals of their leaders. A wave of disgust swept through Rome and beyond, turning the public against Pope Stephen VI. The people were horrified by the disgusting spectacle and the clear abuse of power it showed. Stephen's reign was short. The backlash was quick and severe. He was removed from office, put in prison, and in the end, strangled to death. His fall from power was as dramatic as his rise, a clear reminder of how unsteady political and religious authority can be. The Cadaver Synod stands as a scary reminder of how evil things can get in the places of power. It is a dark chapter in the history of the church, one that continues to fascinate and horrify us. This event remains a scary reminder of how far power-hungry people will go to get what they want. It serves as a warning about the corrupting influence of absolute power and the moral compromises that often come with it. Even within the holy halls of the church, where you would expect goodness and righteousness to win, the Cadaver Synod shows that the want for power can lead to actions that go against both human decency and God's law. Number 5. What is Pope John XII best known for? John XII was as bad as Elagabalus, a robber, a murderer, and an incestuous person, unworthy to represent Christ as the Pope. This terrible priest tarnished the position of St. Peter for 9 whole years and deserved to be called the most wicked of popes. time as Pope of John XII, who became Pope at the young age of 18, is a clear reminder of the dangers of unchecked power. His reign, marked by scandal and excess, is one of the most infamous in the history of the Catholic Church. John XII, born Octavian, was practically raised for corruption. From a young age, he was surrounded by the signs of power and the influence of a father who had immense control over the church. His father, Alberic II of Spoleto, controlled the papacy before him, making sure that his son would follow in his footsteps. This family control set the stage for a papacy that would be ruined by moral and ethical decay. John's papacy was a wild mix of debauchery, violence, and political scheming. His actions weren't just personal failings, but had far-reaching consequences for the Church and the Papal States. He turned the Lateran Palace into a place of wickedness, indulging in extravagance, gambling, and promiscuity. The holy halls of the papal residence became known for vice and corruption. Accusations of rape, incest, and buying and selling church positions followed him throughout his papacy. These were not just rumors, but were confirmed by numerous accounts from people at the time who were appalled by his behavior. John's reckless rule threw the Papal States into chaos. His inability to govern well led to widespread disorder and weakened the Church's influence in the region. In 963 AD, after almost a decade of bad rule, John XII was removed by a council of church officials called together by Emperor Otto I. This was a significant event, as it marked one of the few times in history that a pope was forcefully removed from office. His life and papacy stand as a reminder that unchecked power can corrupt even the holiest offices. The Church, meant to be a place of moral authority, was instead led by a man whose actions were anything but holy. The reign of John XII serves as a warning about the dangers of placing power in the hands of the unworthy. His story is proof of the need for accountability and the dangers of allowing any individual to have too much influence without oversight. Number 4. Few figures embody corruption like Pope Benedict IX. His reign, marked by buying church positions, debauchery, and disregard for his office, stains the Church's history. Benedict's ascension in 1032 AD was scandalous, with his family basically buying the papacy. His papacy was marred by incompetence, neglect, and outrageous behavior. In 1044 AD, Benedict sold the papacy to his godfather, who became Pope Gregory VI. Benedict soon regretted his decision and took control of Rome again. For a short time, there were 3 people claiming to be the Pope. Benedict's reign ended in 1046 AD, when he was removed by Emperor Henry III. His story serves as a reminder of how low the papacy could sink during this chaotic period. Number 3. The Borgia dynasty, Alexander VI, and the sins of the father. The Italian Renaissance was a time of ambition, intrigue, and loose morals within the Church. At the center of this era was the Borgia family, with Pope Alexander VI as its head. Born Rodrigo Borgia, Alexander VI rose through the church ranks through cleverness and wealth. His election in 1492 was tainted by accusations of bribery and buying church positions. Alexander VI appointed his relatives to high-ranking positions, giving them a lot of wealth and power. His son, Cesare Borgia, became a feared military commander. Alexander VI's papacy was marked by political intrigue, military campaigns, and scandalous affairs. His reign was a time of lavish parties and a clear disregard for the Church's spiritual mission. Sanguis, c'est un gans po. Satuum sunt sos. Sergius III. Siegt, the rule of terror. The 10th century, the dark age of the papacy, was a time of corruption and moral decay. At the center of this era was Pope Sergius III, whose papacy is an example of wickedness. Sergius III's rise to power in 904 AD was a result of violence and intrigue. His papacy was marked by bloodshed and allegations of brutality. He ordered the murders of his two immediate predecessors, making his power stronger. Accusations of sexual misconduct also surrounded Sergius III. Sergius. His reign exemplified how low the papacy had fallen during this dark chapter. Sergius III's sword story is a reminder of the dangers of unchecked ambition and the damaging effects of power. Number 1. Boniface VIII. The fall of a tyrant. A story of ambition, conflict, and ultimate downfall. Boniface VIII's papacy shows the attraction of power and its terrible consequences. His reign was marked by a relentless pursuit of authority, often at the expense of diplomacy and peace. Born Benedict Boniface VIII became Pope in 1294. His rise to power was fast and marked by a sharp intellect and a strong will. His papacy was dominated by conflicts with secular rulers, notably King Philip IV of France. These clashes weren't just political, but deeply personal, as both men sought to assert their dominance. Boniface issued the papal bull Unam Sanctam in 1302, asserting papal supremacy. This document declared that salvation was only possible through the Church, and by extension through the Pope himself. Philip IV responded with a propaganda campaign denouncing Boniface. The French king accused the Pope of heresy, simony, and even witchcraft, aiming to undermine his authority. Boniface VIII was captured by French forces in his palace in Anagni, Italy. This dramatic event, known as the Outrage of Anagni, was a direct attack on the papal dignity. The elderly pope was held prisoner for 3 days before being rescued. The physical and emotional strain of this ordeal was immense. The ordeal harmed Boniface's health, and he died a month later. His death marked the end of a turbulent papacy that had far-reaching consequences for the Church. The humiliation of Boniface VIII marked a turning point in papal history. It signaled the decline of papal power and the rise of secular authority. His story serves as a warning about the dangers of pride and unchecked power. Boniface VIII's ambition ultimately led to his downfall, reminding us that even the mightiest can fall. The legacy of Boniface VIII is complex. While he sought to strengthen the Church, his methods and the resulting conflicts left a lasting impact on the papacy and its relationship with secular rulers. Historians continue to debate his actions and their implications. Was he a visionary leader or a tyrant blinded by ambition? The answer may lie somewhere in between. Today, the Vatican stands as a testament to the enduring power of the papacy. But the story of Boniface VIII serves as a reminder of the delicate balance between spiritual authority and worldly power. The weight of the keys to the kingdom of heaven is heavy for those who hold them. The history of the papacy is proof of the corrupting nature of power and human flaws. Yet, in the middle of the darkness, glimmers of hope emerge. For every corrupt pope, history remembers those who embodied the true spirit of their office. Thank you for joining us on this journey through papal history. Like, share, and subscribe for more historical